Imagine this. It's the summer of 1992 in a quiet Midwestern town, where high school dreams are just beginning to unfold. 3 vibrant women, a devoted mother, her free-spirited daughter, and her best friend head home after a night of celebration. By morning, they've vanished without a trace, leaving behind purses full of cash, cars in the driveway, and a house frozen in time. No note, no struggle, just silence. This is the chilling story of the Springfield Three, a mystery that has haunted investigators and families for over 3 decades. Welcome to Crime Justice, where we uncover the truths behind the cases that keep us up at night. Let's dive in. Springfield, Missouri, in early June 1992, buzzed with the energy of graduation season. The city, nestled in the heart of the Ozarks, was a place of rolling hills, family barbecues, and small-town charm. Kickapoo High School had just wrapped up its ceremonies at the Hammons Student Center on what would later become Missouri State University's campus. The air was warm, filled with the scent of fresh-cut grass and the laughter of teens on the cusp of adulthood. Families gathered for dinners, parties stretched into the wee hours, and plans for adventure loomed large like a group trip to Whitewater, the bustling amusement park in nearby Branson. It was the kind of night where everything felt possible, until it didn't. At the center of this story were 3 women whose lives intertwined in the most ordinary yet unbreakable ways. Cheryl Levitt, 47, was the rock of her little family. A talented cosmetologist at a local salon, she had short, bleached blonde hair that framed her warm smile, brown eyes that sparkled with quiet strength, and a thin build marked by faint freckles on her neck and chest. Standing at just 5 feet tall, Cheryl was a single mom who'd overcome a challenging past, including a brief marriage that ended in separation. She and her daughter shared a bond that went beyond words. They were best friends, confidants, always there for each other in their cozy home at 1717 East Delmar Street, a modest 2-bedroom house in a peaceful neighborhood. Cheryl loved painting furniture, tending to her Yorkshire Terrier named Cinnamon, and dreaming up ways to make life brighter for those she cared about. Then there was her daughter, Suzanne "Susie" Streeter, 19, fresh out of high school and radiating that post-grad glow. At 5'2" and 102 pounds, Susie had shoulder-length straight blonde hair, deep brown eyes, and a distinctive small mole near the corner of her mouth that gave her an endearing, quirky charm. A 3.5-inch scar on her upper right forearm told stories of her adventurous spirit, and her large teeth, untouched by dental work, flashed in every grin. Susie was the girl everyone wanted to be around, outgoing, artistic, with a laugh that lit up rooms. She'd recently moved back in with her mum after some time on her own, and the two were closer than ever, planning a future filled with creativity and independence. Susie had just landed her first real job and was buzzing about showing off her new king-sized waterbed to her friends. Completing the trio was Stacy Kathleen McCall, Susie's inseparable best friend and fellow graduate, just 18 years old, a bit taller at 5'3" and 120 pounds. Stacy had long dark blonde hair that fell to the middle of her back with sun-kissed ends, light blue eyes, and a dimple in her chin that made her freckled face even more captivating. She was the planner of the group, thoughtful and kind. With a love for animals, she'd even received a fluffy Cocker Spaniel puppy as a graduation gift that night. Stacy lived with her parents, Janice and Pat, in a loving home, and she and Susie had been thick as thieves since their school days, sharing secrets, dreams, and now, the thrill of stepping into the world as adults. The evening of June 6th started like any perfect graduation night. At 4 p.m., Susie and Stacy walked across the stage in their caps and gowns, surrounded by cheering families, Cheryl beaming proudly from the crowd. Afterward, the school hosted an alcohol-free lock-in until 8 a.m. the next day, but the girls opted out. Eager for real fun, they posed for photos, Susie snapping pics with her close friend Nigel Kenny at the Delmar house earlier in the evening, and Stacy beaming over her graduation cake, a new puppy. Plans swirled dinner with families, then a party at their friend Janelle Kirby's place. Cheryl politely declined an invite to join the Kirbys for dinner, choosing a quiet night at home instead. Around 7 p.m., the girls linked up with Janelle and headed to a gathering at Michelle Elder's house, where the music pumped and laughter echoed late into the night. By 10 p.m., Stacy called her mum, Janice, from the party to update her. No Branson road trip tonight due to the late hour and a bit of caution about driving after drinks. Janice had wisely advised against it. They'd crash at Janelle's and meet up at 8 or 8:30 a.m. for the Whitewater outing instead. The party at Michelle's grew rowdy, drawing a noise complaint. At 1:50 a.m. on June 7th, Springfield police rolled up to shut it down. Lights flashing but no arrests, just a gentle dispersal. Susie and Stacy, realizing Janelle's house was packed with out-of-town relatives, sleeping everywhere, decided to head back to the Del Mar house. It was only a 10-minute drive. Janelle's mom, Kathy, overheard them as they grabbed their things around 2 a.m. Susie turned to Stacy with excitement. "Follow me to my house, we'll crash there. I can't wait to show you my new waterbed." Stacy laughed, replying, "Okay, I will." They piled into their car, Susie's black Honda Prelude and Stacy's white 1979 Pontiac Grand Prix, and peeled off into the night. The last confirmed sighting of the girls came around 2:30 a.m. on Battlefield Road, just minutes from home, though some question its reliability. Cheryl, meanwhile, had been last heard from at 11:15 p.m. the previous night, chatting on the phone with a friend about varnishing an old armoire in the living room, paint cans and brushes still out when the house was later checked. Her car sat in the carport, but curiously, the spot where Susie's Prelude usually parked was empty, hinting perhaps another vehicle had pulled in that night. What happened next remains the heart of the enigma. Between 2 a.m. and 8 a.m., in the quiet hours before dawn, the three women simply disappeared. By 9 a.m., worries set in. Friends had been calling the Delmar house all morning, no answer. Janelle Kirby and her boyfriend, Mike Mackenheimer, drove over to rouse the girls for the Whitewater trip, with Nigel Kenny tagging along. They pulled up to find both cars neatly parked in the driveway. Susie's Prelude in its usual spot, Stacy's Grand Prix right behind. The front door was unlocked for Cheryl, who was safety. As they stepped onto the porch, Janelle spotted the globe of the outdoor light fixture shattered on the ground, though the bulb inside was fine and unbroken. Mike, trying to help, swept up the glass shards without thinking, a move that would later trouble investigators as potential lost evidence. Inside, the house felt eerily still. The Yorkshire Terrier, Cinnamon, paced agitatedly, whining and circling the women's feet, as if sensing something deeply wrong. Lights were off in Susie's bedroom, the TV flickering with static, snow suggesting someone had popped in a movie but never turned it off. On the headboard lay Dr. Seuss's "Oh, the Places You'll Go," a graduation gift, untouched. In the living room, Cheryl's half-finished armoire project sat abandoned, paintbrush nearby. The women's purses were lined up neatly on the bed in Susie's room, Cheryl's with nearly $900 in cash inside, untouched. Susie's and Stacy's alongside. Keys, jewelry and makeup, scattered but present. Stacy's clothes from the night before, jeans and a shirt, were folded tidily on the bed, though her blouse and undergarments were nowhere to be found. Fresh makeup remover wipes hinted at a late-night touch-up. Even more strangely, packs of cigarettes lay half-empty. Cheryl's Marlboros, which she chain-smoked through daily, and the girl's favorite Saul ignored, as if no one had time for a final drag. Janice McCall arrived soon after, her heart sinking as Cinnamon went crazy at her feet. While checking the answering machine for messages, she accidentally hit the wrong button, erasing what she later described as a strange outgoing message, possibly a clue, distinct from the prank calls the house had been getting since spring. As if on cue, the phone rang right then. Janelle picked up to a young male voice spewing crude, sexual remarks. It rang again, same thing. A similar lewd voicemail was left, but it too got wiped in the chaos. These weren't new. Susie had complained about teenish prank calls for months. By afternoon, with no sign of the women and panic rising, Janice dialed the police. Officers arrived around 3:30 p.m., securing the scene, but not before 10 to 20 friends and family had already tramped through, tidying ashtrays and moving items in a well-meaning frenzy that muddied the evidence. What followed was a whirlwind of urgency. Springfield PD treated it as a missing persons case at first, but the eerie perfection of the signal forced entry, no blood, no disarray, quickly screamed abduction. The FBI swooped in within days, alongside the Missouri State Highway Patrol, turning the quiet neighborhood into a hive of activity. Cadaver dogs swept the house and yard, alerting in Susie's closet and the backyard hints of human scent, though inconclusive. Divers dragged Lake Springfield and Table Rock Lake. Ground-penetrating radar scanned suspicious sites, and helicopters buzzed overhead. A tip about a grave-like patch of freshly turned soil in a remote field led to frantic digging. Nothing. Thousands of leads poured in, psychics, confessions, even a report of a young woman driving a van on a highway, looking distressed and mouthing help to a trucker with two men in the back. The van matched a description from a neighbor who'd seen one pull into their driveway that morning. A crying girl at the wheel, but it vanished, never traced. Interviews painted a fuller picture. Friends recalled the girl's excitement, no enemies in sight. Cheryl's ex-husband, a Vietnam vet with PTSD, was cleared early. He'd been out of town. Susie's biological father, who'd left when she was young, lived far away. But whispers emerged. A co-worker of Cheryl's mentioned a shady client who'd fixated on her. Prank callers escalated to threats. The media frenzy grew. National outlets like Unsolved Mysteries aired segments, offering $43,000 rewards that still stand today. By week's end, the house was sealed. The women's photos plastered everywhere. Cheryl's poised smile, Susie's playful scar, Stacy's dimpled grin. As months turned to years, the probe deepened with shocking turns. In 1993, a grand jury convened, sifting through 5,000 pages of tips, but no indictments. A chilling lead surfaced in 1997. Robert Craig Cox, a convicted kidnapper and robber out on parole, bragged to co-workers at a stake, Enchik, that he knew what happened to the Springfield Three. He'd done it. Cox, who'd lived in the area and had a history of violence against women, claimed the women were murdered and buried near a Springfield lake. Investigators grilled him. He recanted, then doubled down in interviews, even predicting the bodies would surface by 1997. They didn't. Polygraphs. He failed them, but without evidence, he walked free. later imprisoned again for another crime, still taunting from behind bars. Another bombshell came in 2007. Bart Streeter, Suzzy's half-brother, surfaced with a wild story. On a family genealogy quest, he claimed to have stumbled on a remote Missouri cave, where he found 3 bodies bound, decomposed, matching the women's descriptions. He said he'd reburied them to protect the family. Skeptical detectives assumed the site empty. Bart failed a lie detector, admitted fabricating it for attention, and faded back. Then, in prison whispers, inmates like Stephen Garrison spun tales of a drug-fueled pact gone wrong involving local teens Dustin Reck and Michael Clay, supposedly a botched break-in to steal Suzzy's waterbed for a party, leading to a panicked cleanup. Reckler and Clay were polygraphed. They passed, but doubts lingered about coerced confessions. A psychic tipped off a barrel in a Springfield pond drained empty. Leads like a bloody prayer card mailed anonymously, or sightings of lookalikes, all fizzled. Twists piled on. In 2018, DNA from an unknown male was found under Cheryl's fingernails, tested against Cox, no match. Ground radar revisited old sites, yielding odd readings but no digs. Families clung to hope. Janice McCall, now in her 70s, still fields calls, vowing they're out there. Vigils at the victim's memorial garden mark anniversaries. Purple ribbons fluttering for Stacy's favorite color. The case, now cold, sits with Springfield PD, a puzzle of what-ifs, a random abduction during a late-night stop, a targeted grudge against Cheryl's salon life, or something closer to home, tied to those prank calls that turned sinister. Over 33 years later, justice remains elusive. No arrests, no closure. Just a $43,000 reward, gathering dust. Tips funneled through Crime Stoppers at 417-869-TIPS, or the PD's line. The Delmar house sold, raised in 2018 for a new build. Erasing physical echoes, families like the McCalls and Levitts endure. Their pain a quiet force pushing for answers. Cheryl's brother, Don, passed in 2020 without knowing, but the quest lives on. FBI, cold case teams revisit files. Genetic genealogy looms as a potential breakthrough. The Springfield Three aren't forgotten. They're a reminder that some shadows never lift, but light persists in the search. What do you think happened that fateful night? A stranger's impulse, or a hidden connection closer to home? Drop your theory in the comments below. And hey, if you've got a tip, no matter how small, reach out to Springfield PD. Anonymously, it could be the key. Question 2. Could modern DNA tech finally crack this, or is the trail too cold? Let me know. Finally, who do you suspect most skulks with his boasts? Or someone we haven't named? Share your thoughts. If this story gripped you, hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into cases like these on Crime Justice, your go-to. For true tales of pursuit and resolution, turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Like this video if you're as invested as I am, and comment your #1 takeaway. Together, we keep the conversation alive. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, stay safe. See you next time.